close near.
If you're a regular here, my unbending love for God of War is going to come as no surprise. I firmly believe that this is the best single player experience that you can play right now, anywhere. Take away all nostalgic connections, franchise loyalties and any other external influences solely based on what comes on the disc. This game is a near perfect balance of gameplay, story, graphics and mechanics. It's for that reason that the sequel announced by Sony themselves to be arriving this year is without a doubt one of the most anticipated titles coming for PlayStation owners. But how likely are we to actually see this game in 2021? I don't fucking know.
I'm a god, boy.
So what do we actually know about this game, the sequel to God of War 2018? Well, absolutely fuck all. Nothing. We don't even know what the game's called. In fact, had Sony not announced themselves that this game was coming in 2021, I would have almost certainly laughed in your face if you told me that God of War 2 was coming this year. It hasn't even been 3 years yet since the release of God of War back in April 2018. Basically what I'm saying is, the puzzle pieces don't fit here, something doesn't add up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of one single AAA title in the last 10 years or so that hasn't had at least a couple of trailers come out before the game was launched, which is why I thought they were very confident to announce the release date as 2021 whilst not showing us anything from the game. But if Sony are confident that this game is going to launch in 2021, then the game must be in its later stages of development, most likely finished production and moved on to the testing phase, maybe even an alpha build already complete. I mean, I'm not a video game developer, so correct me if I'm wrong, but is it unrealistic to think that in what we can now consider the last 11 months of this game's development at most, that they should have the game in a position to be able to show us something? Anything. So I've been thinking, and I've been trying to come up with a few explanations for the reason that we God of War fans find ourselves in the position that we're in. The first and most hopeful is that this is all part of their marketing strategy. They are making the conscious effort to keep us in the dark. Now, this kind of thing doesn't tend to happen in the gaming industry, but we do see it all the time in the music world. Whereas in the gaming industry, we see hype being built in the presence of information, i.e. trailers, gameplay and lore. In the music industry, musicians often build hype in the absence of information. Things like changing their colour scheme on their Facebook page or their profile picture on Instagram. The reason why this basically never happens in AAA game production is because there's a lot of money involved and outside investors and other things that influence how many risks the publishers are willing to take in promoting and marketing a game. Sony Santa Monica, though, are in the unique position of building a sequel to a critically acclaimed award-winning success that, being that it's only not even 3 years old yet, is still fresh in the minds of those that play it, and therefore, to some degree, the hype for this game already exists. They're also an in-house development team, which means that 100% of their funding comes from Sony themselves. It means that there's no outside influences from external investors, and any risks that Sony decide to take in the marketing of this game falls ultimately on Sony's own shoulders, and Sony's own shoulders alone. This isn't a Cyberpunk situation where there are external investors expecting to make their money back on the investment that they made. We also know that Cory Barlog is no stranger to this type of Easter egg style guerrilla marketing. We saw him do it in the build up to the last game, we saw him do it in the build up to the announcement of this game, and it could be entirely possible that this game is in great shape, fully on track, and they're just sitting on the information, building up that hype in the absence of information, because they know that we all want to see what's going on, knowing that when they do show us it, we're all going to lose our heads. A second possibility, and the one that I think is probably the least likely, or at least the one that would surprise me the most if it were true, is that there is some change so drastic to the game that by showing us anything at all, they would be revealing more than they wanted to reveal. Now, it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but it would have to be something really significantly drastic. Like, for example, you don't play as Kratos in the game. You actually play as Atreus. And this is 10 years in the future. Again, I don't see them fucking with the fans like that. Kratos is such like a fundamental part of this game, and for the first time in the last game we were able to really get close to Kratos and see who he actually is as a person. It would feel like they were undoing a lot of that work for me if that's the route that they went down. Another possibility is that the world itself has changed quite drastically and they don't want to show us that, and I think out of the two that's the most likely scenario. But again, I think we kind of expect that, right? Because at the end of God of War 2018, Fimbulwinter started, which already kind of started to change the land. Everything was covered in snow. So we know that this game, or we assume heavily that this game is going to be centered around Ragnarok, which takes place after this long winter, which should change the terrain of the game anyway. So I doubt that that's the reason. Maybe a third possibility is that the portion of the game which is most finished now maybe entails Kratos going back to his homeland of Greece to collect something or something like that. And obviously if we saw that, that would be a massive plot point that was given away. So possibilities, I don't know. One thing I would say against this though is that if they were planning to completely tear down the world map from the first game and redesign it for the second game, I'd be surprised if they could turn that around in 3 years. I mean, 3 years seems like a short time to turn around a AAA game in this day and age, right? And that raises its own questions, one being that there is of course the possibility that this isn't like a completely full new release as such, but more along the lines of a Spider-Man Miles Morales, where many of the same assets or even the whole overworld are reused. If you remember, there are 9 realms accessible from the world tree in the first game, but you can only actually visit 6 of them, 4 as part of the main quest and the other 2 by collecting runes which allowed you to go there, leaving Svartalheim, Vanaheim and Asgard unvisited, which presumably is where most of this next game is going to take place, with the rest of the game taking place in the same Midgard that we saw in the last game, just with a Ragnarok reskin. For the life of me I can't find it, but I'm sure I've seen a video interview somewhere with Cory Barlog where he talks about how he was writing a DLC for the original game and it was way too over ambitious, and at a certain point he realised that he was writing the second game. If this turns out to be the game that we get, then it's almost certainly going to take place in the same arena as the last one because it began its conception as a DLC for that game. A reskin of the overworld is definitely not something that I'm against because Midgard was such an awesome area to explore in the first one, and if they do reskin it, it'll breathe new life into it. But as long as the other 3 realms that we are yet to visit are sizable in their nature, because if I put this game in and complete it in 10 hours, I will be fucking pissed. But I just don't see that happening. I don't see them doing that to us. I guess the final and most disappointing, yet probably the most likely, is the reason we haven't seen anything yet is because they haven't got anything ready to show us yet, and the game is actually much further back in development than Sony are letting on. But why would it benefit Sony to mislead people like that, knowing that they might well have to delay this game into 2022 or further? Well, let's not forget that we're still in the opening throes of a brand new console generation, and at the moment the exclusive lineups for both consoles are slim to non-existent, and that consoles going forward may be bought solely on the expectation of what is to come. Currently, the Series X lineup has the likes of Halo Infinite, the Medium and Scorn as notable ones that I can think off the top of my head, versus Sony's staggering lineup of Returnal, Stray, Final Fantasy 16, Ratchet & Clank, Project Athia, Deathloop, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Forbidden West, and of course the unnamed God of War sequel. If that isn't a whole list of reasons to buy the PlayStation 5, then I really don't know what is. The only thing is, and call me cynical, but if all of those games land in 2021, would that not be the best exclusive lineup we have ever seen in one single year from Sony? It seems like it would be very surprising. Now, I'm not one for talking shit on Sony, but maybe, just maybe, they are perhaps knowingly being over ambitious about the exclusive titles that are coming in year one of the PS5. And I say this from a place of cynicism, because if they do deliver on all of those games, 2021 will no doubt be the best year in gaming in a long time. And that's not even to say that the years have been bad recently, but that lineup is ridiculous. So to summarise, do I think we're going to see the unnamed God of War sequel in 2021? With all of my being, I want to say yes, but probably not. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Is the God of War sequel going to be coming in 2021? As always, like if you enjoyed the video, and if you're new here, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.